Okay, picture this. 50,000 Russian troops. Just starved cold by Ukrainian resistance in Sumy. You have to wonder, how did that actually happen?
It's a pretty remarkable situation.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're really digging into these critical battles playing out right now on the Sumy-Kursk axis. Russia's summer offensive is definitely heating up there.
But Ukraine is pushing back, and hard. It's quite something to see.
Absolutely. So our mission here for you is to cut through the noise. We want to give you a clear view of the real combat moves, those, ingenious Ukrainian tactics we're hearing about.
And what it all points to for the next month or so.
Yeah.
We've gone through the sources, trying to pull out the key insights.
Exactly. So let's unpack it. In early June, Russia kicks off this renewed offensive right along the Sumy border.
Yeah, moving in what sources are calling elite brigades. They're pushing towards Ukrainian territory.
And the goal seems clear. Establish a buffer zone, basically, and put heavy pressure on Sumy city itself.
Forces coming out of Kursk Oblast, crossing near Sudza and Basivka key spots, they're trying to slice through Ukrainian supply lines.
The Kremlin must have been banking on quick gains, fast push. But that's not quite how it played out.
Not at all. What's really fascinating here is instead of those quick wins, they ran into incredibly fierce resistance, like really stiff opposition.
Right.
And according to the ISW, the Institute for the Study of War Ukrainian Forces, they haven't just stabilized that northern area.
They've pushed back.
They've actually pushed back near places like Oleksivka and Krepeshine, which, makes you ask the big question, how? How is Ukraine not just like holding on, but actually taking back ground?
That really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? And based on what we're seeing, the answer seems to lie in some very specific tactics. Commander-in-Chief Sumy-Kursk has even detailed some of this.
It's this mix, isn't it? Old school defenses meeting new tech.
Exactly. It's ingenious. They've got these fortified frontline villages, proper trench lines, but it's how they're using them. They're not just barriers. They funnel Russian troops into these pre-planned kill zones, basically areas where they're sitting ducks.
All right, making them incredibly vulnerable.
Perfect targets for things like kamikaze drones, these explosive packed UAVs flying right into them, precision stuff.
And the drones are proving incredibly effective against convoys too, we hear.
Yes, hitting convoys, hitting artillery. That's the other piece, this aggressive counter-battery fire, taking out Russian guns before they can even hammer the cities.
It's a really integrated system. Trenches, drones, rapid response units, counterfire, layers of defense and offense working together.
So zooming out a bit, what does this success, this holding action, mean strategically?
Well, if we connect the dots, Ukraine's success here is huge strategically. It's tied down, get this, nearly 50,000 Russian troops.
50,000, that's a massive number.
It really is. Think about it. Those are troops that Russia desperately needs elsewhere. They could be reinforcing critical fronts like Donetsk or Kharkiv.
Where they need that momentum.
Exactly. So Kyiv is effectively turning the Sumy front into a kind of meat grinder for the Russian offensive.
Wow.
Forcing them to pour resources, manpower, equipment into a fight where they clearly expected, well, frankly, an easier time.
A strategic drain, almost like a black hole sucking in resources. Okay, so that's the Ukrainian side, turning Sumy into this meat grinder. What about the Russian side? What's the cost for them?
Well, it's clearly significant.
I mean, they launched their biggest aerial assault we've seen yet, right? Over 500 drones and missiles.
Yeah, a massive barrage. But it seems it just wasn't enough to break through or change the tide there.
And reports suggest they're still wrestling with the same old problems. Really poor logistics, supplies getting delayed.
Morale issues, too, apparently crippling some units in the field.
Right, low morale and persistent corruption messing with command and planning. You see outlets like the Washington Post framing this whole push, not as some decisive masterstroke, but more like a desperate effort.
A struggle to maintain any kind of forward momentum, given the resistance and their own internal issues.
So looking forward, say, the next 30 days or so, what are the predictions? What should we be watching for?
Well, based on current trends, we can probably expect more of these drone-led Ukrainian counterattacks, especially hitting those rural corridors, supply lines.
Try and keep the pressure on.
Exactly. Yeah. Russia, on the other hand, they'll almost certainly keep pushing towards Sumy city. That seems to be the objective.
But will they have the punch to get there?
That's the question. Given their current struggles, they'll likely lack the real momentum needed for a major breakthrough. It's certainly possible Ukraine could even regain more territory.
Especially if those NATO intel pipelines and crucial supply deliveries keep flowing steadily.
Definitely. And those tactical impacts we touched on earlier, they really summarize the situation. The drones mean high Russian casualties, high attrition.
The fortified lines slow them down, bog them down.
And the strategic defense prevents any kind of encirclement. Ukraine is holding key ground effectively.
So the bottom line seems to be Sumy is holding firm, and the Russian effort in Kursk is just burning through resources.
Precisely. It could very well be a significant turning point, or at least a major stall in this summer campaign.
It really could.
Which brings up an interesting question for you listening at home. What do you think happens next? Will Ukraine manage to actually break that Kursk corridor, push back further?
Or will Russia find a way to regroup, maybe change tactics, and push even harder than we've seen?
It's definitely something to mull over.
Keep those questions in mind. Think about the significance of holding this ground and the really critical evolving role of these new tactics, especially that integrated drone warfare in how this conflict is unfolding.